What's going on, guys? I thought it would be a really fun thing to do is to go over some of our lovely blue units and go over the encroaching cold. Let me go to Icicle because she's the newer character, right? She is the newer. Wait, the music's a little bit too still low. Character in the building. She's gonna be like our main. One of our main characters, I think, that we need to mention just because she does have a lot to do with encroaching cold. And yeah, let me just go to boom, encroaching cold, just so we can read it real quick. Attack speed is reduced by 5%. This effect lasts for 12 seconds and it can stack up to max of 10. Now, obviously, like I've said this before in other videos, I do think that encroaching cold is better for PvP. I think it's better to reduce other attack speed because it affects how you gain energy. I think you gain energy in this game. Well, you definitely gain it by dealing damage. That's why sometimes, especially if you play PvP, you'll see that certain characters get their ults like very quickly. There are some characters that get a lot when they get damaged, like Armin, who's a fire tank in this game. She gets energy based on how much like damage she's taking or something of that nature. I don't know the exact how it works. But yes, really cool thing, but I don't know how much it affects PvE as much. But there are a couple characters that is a lot different from Wind's Breath. Wind's Breath, they had a couple characters that had stuff that benefited off of it, and they had stuff that consumed it. Because it's like a buff that they have, and they kind of keep the buff until it's something uses it. Now these are a debuff, and they go away, and they have a time frame, so it's a little bit different. There's not going to be as much that utilize it as from what at least from what my researching. There's not as much that utilize it because it is a debuff, right? So let's go into that, and I'm gonna start off just to say, like I did before, there are a couple characters that don't have literally anything to do with that, and that is going to be Basel. He has absolutely nothing to do with encroaching cold, and I think Celia doesn't have it either, if I remember correctly in my notes. I would have wrote it down if I did. Yeah, no, she has absolutely nothing to do with encroaching. She actually counters burn on her ultimate, and that is about it. Also, another thing that I need to mention just before I go in the deep dive is I'm not counting passives or anything like that are in the awakening. Sorry, not passives, but the awakenings. So there might be something in here I didn't look at these, like all of a sudden see like, alright, look, he can inflict bleeding. Cool. One, a lot of the times you're not going to get to these things later on, so it's kind of hard to say I'm gonna build my team so because when I get phase 6 Basel, you know, I'm gonna be killing the game with this encroaching cold team. Like, no, I'm only going based off their skills and their passives, and that's the only thing I'm going off of as far as trying to build a team comp that can do something. All right, so there are a couple characters that I wanted to bring out. Let's start off with Shadow because she is the maybe I should have yeah. She gets it when she gets hit. It's within her passive, right? When she has after casting a skill, she gets the sugar coat. While she's in sugar coat, she gains damage received. Upon being hit, she hits it back. Now the reason why I wanted to start off with her, I'm not reading every character that does it, by the way, but her is one of these ones that a couple of them have that there is a chance to land it. This is the same thing that I mentioned in like games like Epic 7, where there are characters that guarantee land stuff versus characters that have a chance to land stuff. Now obviously upon being hit, you that's kind of crazy. It doesn't say hit by what skill, attack, or whatever. They can't have that be 100% because it would probably be too strong. So a lot of times that when there's a lot of chances for something to land, they reduce it. Meanwhile, if I go to a character like Miria, who has actually has 100% on her basic attack, right, off her passive, but it has a cooldown, right? There's always something to mitigate how much of it that you're getting to some extent, right? So just wanted to keep that in mind. So I'm gonna also save her for last. There's certain characters I want to speak at certain times. So just for instance, like Shadow, that's the only time you can get encroaching cold is when she has that passive on. She has to cast a skill. Once the skill is cast, anytime she takes damage, there's a chance for it to have it. You even have stuff like Issa, who has it very interestingly. Like, she doesn't really have anything if you look at her actual skills. Nothing here that says encroaching. But then you look at her passive, and then encroaching cold is every time her skill hits. And then that means that it's a 2022, and then it goes up. Like something like this that ticks multiple times as it's hitting. There's multiple shots for her to get it. So it's very interesting. I think her ult is multi-hitting as well. That's why the numbers here are so low. But like, you have to keep stuff like that in mind. Now, I'm gonna go to Ume here, who also has like a special one, and she only does encroaching cold when she uses this specific move, and it has to do a successful interrupt, right? So it's a little bit differently than some of the other characters. And then the last unique one that I kind of wanted to bring up is gonna be Liv. Liv actually is pretty cool. Hers is from her passive, and she actually puts stacks. She can have up to 3 stacks of this, the freezing pulse. So every 6.5 seconds she gets a freezing pulse. Then when she uses a skill or alt, it will actually, which is kind of nuts, it will actually give encroaching cold stacks based on how many freezing pulses that she has. Which is insane. That's really cool, right? It also doesn't say, no, so there it is. She loses 1 freezing pulses every time she uses a skill or something like that. So they don't go away if she's not using a skill or alt, which is kind of crazy, but she could stack it pretty well. Another character that I think stacks it relatively well is also going to be Icicle. I think it's time to talk about her. It's time to talk about her. Icicle is one of the craziest characters and is, in my personal opinion, the biggest payoff for encroaching cold. So I actually could say that they probably created her on the basis that you really didn't have a payoff for encroaching cold beforehand. The only characters that were in the main game that had a encroaching cold payoff was actually Miria, and I'll show that to you right now, which is going to be her ult damage. Her ult actually interrupts the damage, and then it does increase 5% per stack of encroaching cold, and then as you can see, 5% to 10 stacks, so you can go up to a 50% bonus damage on an ultimate. And encroaching cold is actually decently easy to stack. As I was just showing you guys, there's 100% chances, there's 25% chances of it landing on multiple occasions, so it's very easy to stack. It's a lot easier to stack it than Wind's Breath. But this one, you have to be careful. After that, all stacks of encroaching cold will be cleansed. And that's assuming that they're talking about the characters that hit, because this is a rectangular area. It's like a thing she has to aim. So everyone that gets hit, all the encroaching stats are cleansed. Now, this would be a problem, but at the same time, remember, this effect lasts for 12 seconds. So the encroaching cold does go away. So if you can pay out, we call it using the payout of it, then just do it. If it's worth the damage, you're gonna get those stacks back, especially because her specifically has a couple. She has 100% on her passive. She has 100% on this skill. She has 100% on this skill, depending on which one you want to do. So she has ways of definitely pumping out encroaching cold, no problem. So Mida is a decent, great payout. Black is the other one that has a payout. Yes, I'm on this account. I don't have Black on this account. He has the same thing, but only if you have 5 stacks, then this ultimate will do additional 30% AD of damage. Then it will do no other skills outside of Icicle, who I'm about to talk about, has something that pays out for encroaching cold. So just keep that in mind. So for any other character that you're kind of using it, you're just using it as a mainline debuff to screw over the attack speed of other characters. That's the only reason why you're using it. So if you're not using Black or Media, you're just kind of like, you're just trying to debuff the team. So those two are the other ones. And then, like I said, they made Icicle because I feel like they wanted to have another payout character. So first off, you just go straight to the passive. Icicle deals 3, 6, and 10% more damage to enemies with 3, 6, or 9 stacks of encroaching cold. So that's just damage. It didn't say her basic attack. It doesn't say anything else. So the more encroaching cold a target has, she's doing more damage, which is obviously really important because she's an assassin, right? So her basic attack also deals damage when she will launch an additional freezing round, applying 1 stack of encroaching cold and freeze. She actually has the freeze debuff more in her kit than I've seen any other character, at least from me, like kind of speed reading. So she has stuns built into her kit and an assassin. Normally you don't do that. That's kind of a really strong thing to have a character basically kind of pop up on you. Not only is dealing increased damage to you, but also at the same time is nuking you. CCing you. Nuking you and CCing you. So if you survive the nuke, you also can't retaliate, which is kind of nuts, especially because they go into the background. They're going to target healers, they're going to target other like mages, archers. So like this is a very strong unit, especially if you were thinking about going encroaching cold. So I feel as though you definitely, if you're trying to go encroaching cold team, you need Icicle. Just because of that. Now, does she have other things? Absolutely. Look at this. Freezing rounds, so she has more frozen plus encroaching cold. Or you go with this skill, guess what? Encroaching cold and frozen. Frozen enemies take more damage, but if you're doing this, you're more hoping to freeze with your passive, which, you know, depending on how you want to work it out, you could do that. But I think this skill is just overall easier. And as you see here, it has a 30, 15, or 5% chance to launch 1, 2, or 3 freezing rounds with encroaching cold. And it can freeze. I think you just use the frozen rate. It's kind of nuts. And then she has the ultimate, same thing, deals 1 to 3 stacks of encroaching cold to a random target. So there is that. I can go through her awakenings, which will probably make it a little bit easier, but that is, to me, in my personal opinion, the big payout. Like Black has a 1. His ultimate also has to do with how many stats, but like you have to have 5, and maybe one target might not have it, whatever. But she just does more damage based on that, and you will be able to keep encroaching cold because, like I said, you're building a team around it. So Black should be fine too. So if you want him as your range DPS and her as your engaged DPS, you could do that. That's ultimately fine in my personal opinion. So that would leave you, if we're making a team comp, right? So that is your, sorry. You go with, where is she? There you go, Icicle. You can have Black as your DPS. Now, Issa is not that bad because she can suck them in, right? Like, she can suck them into you. But so can Basil. Again, he doesn't have anything that has anything to do with encroaching cold. He just has a bunch of CCs and stuns. So I think if you're trying to go for more control, like I said, I think this is a PvP debuff more than anything. So I think that having Basil is also another pull-in. And you could also go with Liv because she distributes encroaching cold, but she also has like crazy heal. Like some of her healing and AP numbers are kind of nuts. But yeah, and she also has some pretty cool stuff in my personal opinion. And I also love this. This ultimate is nuts. I think if you're running any type of Hydro based team, you throw Liv on it because this ult. Ice Spring records all Hydro damage inflicted on the enemies in 5 seconds. When all ends, deals true damage to 7.5. Done. So you're definitely using Liv. So right now, your team comp is going to look like Liv, Icicle. I think you could go. You have to be careful with Miria, but her using all of it and taking all the ones off, depending on when Liv uses the ult, that's pretty strong too. But I can also say maybe not use her. You use Issa to kind of stack them all together. So when Icicle goes in, they're all stacked up together. And then you can just have Yushiru as your tank, right? She's your front line. She has a lot of cool abilities, as we already discussed. You know, she has ways to give herself HP, allies HP. She has ways to, incoming projectiles get deflected. She has this ultimate that neutralizes income. Like, she has a lot of cool stuff. So I think that that's kind of your team comp. That is what I would say is your ultimate encroaching cold team. Shadow, Icicle, Liv, and Issa, I think. I could try to do Black, but I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, but like I said, also Media has a lot of ones that do 1 stack at a time. I think Icicle actually generates encroaching cold enough. Personally, if you check out her S1 and S2, there's definitely a lot of ways to get encroaching as well. So you definitely don't want to overload it, but overloading it is fine. If you can keep it at 10 stacks, and you don't have media who's going to consume them, then they're going to sit there with 50% reduced attack speed, which is, even if you're not, I've been talking about it's best for PvP, right? But for PvE, that's a lot of damage mitigation, right? That's a lot of damage mitigation when the opponent is not attacking you back as often. And if you combine that with any debuff that's in the game, like that's like also allowing them to reduce attack, so they're just not doing that much damage. Unfortunately, there's no taunters here. I think Basil would be a taunter, but like I said, he has nothing to do. Yeah, he pulls them, has another pull, then he has like a AoE stun for 3 seconds. Really strong. I think he's really good for PvP as well. But that's gonna be it. Let me know what you guys think about this lovely encroaching guy. Do you prefer a different type of lineup? I think that those are your 4 characters if you're trying to run the loveliness that is an encroaching cold team. Anywho, that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Hopefully if you have these units, you're flying by the what the hell is it? the Field of Snow thing. Maybe you're having a good old time. A lot of people are just using their fire units because we already built fire, and I think that was a good idea for them to make the next event not counter the cards, because if they wanted to be crazy, they could have made the next event water, which would have countered the fire team that you built up, forcing you to build like green for some reason, which would have been which would have been weird. So they definitely did a good job on that. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.